guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Njoroge and I'm back with another video. If you're new here, you are so welcome and do not forget to subscribe. So I need you to forgive me because where I am there might be a lot of noise. I'm near a road, so please expect pikis, borders, what do you call them? Oh, motorbikes. Expect motorbikes passing, expect noise because there are gonna be people passing. But I really needed to do this video, and please just forgive me. Nasikia gari zishaanza kupita. Please forgive me and please focus on me. So as my what do you call it, as my title says, importance of pattern making. Well, most of the time, okay, I'm working on some pattern here, so we're gonna be conversing, we're gonna be talking, you know, as I tell you what I think about importance of pattern making. Most of the times are the times that I do freehand, because sometimes I'm not doing the designs that sometimes I'm getting. I am not gonna do them again and again, so I don't need a pattern. But for example, for the bags that I do, most of the time I have patterns because I'm gonna want it again and again, and I don't want to keep using freehand again and again. So I have a pattern that helps me to cut whenever I want to make the bag again if I'm out of the bag. So if you're a designer out there, I tell you that it is really important making patterns, because sometimes you find that you want to do the same thing again, and what do? You go back to freehand, and maybe you even forget about the measurements. But when you have a pattern, it gets easy for you. It gets easy for you to cut whenever you really need it. So patterns are really important. So right here I'm making some baby patterns because they're clothes that I will need. They're clothes that I'm planning to do most of the time. So I really need the pattern. Again, sometimes patterns are really important because you're able to get the shape. You get a shape. There's that shape that when you make patterns you get compared to freehand. All right, don't come here beating me when I'm saying that. But you know, when you make patterns, when you're doing many clothes and then you do freehand, sometimes when you're doing freehand you don't and you make many clothes the same design, and sometimes you don't get the same designs in all the clothes. And bear me witness for those who are designers or those who are tailors, when you're doing the same clothes and you're taking freehand, sometimes you get one is either a bit bigger or one is a bit smaller, maybe because when you're sewing sometimes you took a bit of allowance, you know, you did that little bit of mistake, but when you used the pattern, because you already know how you put the allowance, you're not gonna get confused with the other clothes, because you're going to the way you do to this clothes is the same exact thing that you're gonna do to the other cloth. Not that when you're doing freehand you can't do the same thing. Yeah, you can do the same thing. Sometimes you get tired when you're doing freehand because you're cutting a lot of cloth. You might make a mistake. And that's why sometimes it is really important for you to have patterns. Most of the time, pattern making, drafting. There's drafting, there's pattern making. Most of the time, drafting is done in companies where you're doing a mass production, right? So when you're doing mass production, you really need the patterns, because you really need them. You really need the patterns. So I am a talker. I can talk and forget that I was working. And yeah, so for me, I'm making a pattern of a baby's top I will bring it the top continuously. So I'm gonna be making a top. You know I'm a talker and I don't really know, but I'm gonna be using inches. But when you're drafting most of the time is when you use centimeters. And yeah, I'm drafting in a brown paper. Even this brown paper, this is the brown paper I'm using, but the other papers you can use. There are others that you use a machine. There are other companies where you use a machine, but my research was when you need the brown paper first, and then it's gonna be transformed. For those who sell patterns, you really also need a brown paper first, or I don't know what you use. Then it depends. If you, as long as you get the pattern right and correct, you can use anything that can get you a pattern. But for me, I know of brown papers first, and those who do drafting or make patterns, I know they use something similar like this. So I'm using a pencil. I have my roller. I have this roller because it's a baby stop. It's not really big, but when I'm doing big, an adult cloth that I will really need to use a big roller, there's that roller that's it's a wooden one. Did I speak correct English? But that is it. It's a wooden one. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a long one and it's made of wood. So yeah, I'm using a tape measure because I'm using inches. And you know what, sometimes I find myself using this roller because it also have inches and they're baby clothes and they're small. So let's go back to importance of pattern making. Sometimes they give you a good shape. For example, if I take your measurements and I take your measurements and then I draft with your measurements, even though I have to adjust to either size 14, size 16 or size whichever it is, I still need to use it. I will still like use your measurement, even if I'm gonna use size 14, 16 compared to your measurement. I still need them, and it's gonna shape it. You know, it's the shape of your body, right? It's gonna like come out really nice. Let me not say what I wanted to say because for those, I use freehand and I didn't want to talk about it that way, the way I wanted to say. But sometimes you get that the clothes when you draft, it's more fitting, and sometimes you don't really need a lot of adjustment than than freehand. But most of the time we use freehand because you come in with your design and I start drafting or I start making patterns, I'm not gonna need that pattern again because I don't know if the next client will need the same dress unless I did them, and I'll just have a pile of them, you know what I mean? I'll just have a pile of those patterns and maybe I'm never gonna use them again. But for the blocks, there are these blocks, like for example, to attain a certain skirt you really need a block. Like for example, if that is in pattern making, if you really want to make a pattern, and that is for example if you want to make an A-shape skirt, you really need to make a straight skirt block to attain the A-shape. Is how you gain, that's how you do it to gain the A-shape, but you really need to use a block. So in pattern drafting, I don't know why I'm saying pattern making, pattern drafting, it's all the same. I don't know if it's all the same to you, but for me I think it's all the same because you see when you're making, oh yeah, I think there's a difference because pattern drafting you use centimeters and pattern making you can use even inches, I guess. I don't know, that's my knowledge. But what was I saying? I forgot. So I think pattern drafting is really important. I just forgot what I was saying. And yeah, I'm making I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm excited today. I really want to talk about pattern making and pattern drafting, and I am excited. So we learn as we enjoy. Alright? And if you know it, subscribe, please subscribe. Okay, one of these days I'm just gonna do a basic block, a skirt basic block, so you will understand. In pattern drafting, there is a block, then after the block there's a basic block, then after the basic block you have to do working pattern from the basic block, and then the working pattern, then after doing the working pattern you're gonna get a final pattern, and the final pattern is what you place on the fabric to get the shape that you want. So that's pattern drafting for me, for you, for everyone. That's how it is. Now, importance of let's focus on importance of pattern making and drafting. Mostly used in, I've already mentioned this like 20 times. Mostly used in most companies, fashion houses, when you want to get things in mass. It really helps. You don't really need to cut like a lot of time. Like you don't need to cut. You don't need to keep going to the same thing. You just like take the pattern, put it on top of the fabric, use pins, and you get what you want. So that is pattern making, and that is one of the importance of pattern making and pattern drafting. Then in pattern drafting, these sizes, there are those sizes that are called standard sizes. Sometimes you might get people who have like 36, okay, let me use inches, 36 inches in all bust, and and others hips 40, and someone will still have 36 at the same time, 36 bust, and at the same time they have like 46 hips. So yeah, standard inches, they are there, but sometimes when it comes to drafting, when you take someone's measurements and then you go to the standard measurements and try to fix the person either in size 14, size 16, size 18, you will never get someone who's like stuck to those measurements exactly. It's something that has to change, you know, or the measurement is either a bit upper or it's a bit down, a little bit, something that you're gonna adjust, but it always fits. It always fits anyway, and that's why when you get in the ready-made clothes, when you're making the ready-made clothes, you say, when you're buying a ready-made cloth, you like say, I'm a size 14, I'm a size 16, and sometimes you might say you're a size 14, but the cloth might not fit you. Sometimes when you're size 16, either the cloth get bigger or small. So it is really important for pattern drafting when it comes to companies. Yeah, I hope I'm talking sense. And I hope you're trying to understand what I'm trying to mean. So before you get to pattern drafting or to pattern making, you really need to have a design, and you also need to, what do we call it? You also need to, I'm sorry about that. You also really need to, what do you call it? To understand the design. Yeah, you really need to understand the design so that you can you can be able to draft or make the pattern, and you can be able to know where there's a seam, where there's a tie, where there's a pocket, where there's a collar, where there's how the design of the sleeve, how that design looks like. Oh my god, needs to get checked. Right. That's it. So I hope you really gotten something about pattern drafting. I will come into details. This wasn't detailed because I was trying to do some patterns over here, baby pattern, and I was like, why not try and talk about pattern drafting and pattern making, because most of the time at the times that people use freehand, because sometimes pattern making can be a lot of work when you make it, but once you're done, you're never gonna make it again. Like, unless it gets torn, unless the brown paper or whatever pattern unless it gets destroyed, that's when you make another one. It's gonna help you if at all you're making it in mass, or it's something that you know you're gonna make it again and again. So it really helps. So I hope I made sense. But I'm gonna come back here again to put it into details, because I don't think I feel like I still need to put it into detail, like one by one. Again, I really also need to do so much on fashion things. I'm gonna come back and tell you. My next video is gonna come up after this after this one. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. See you in my next video, and please go follow me. I'm gonna write everything down in the description box, so you can go get my Instagram handles. You can get my Instagram handles down in the description box below, and also my Facebook handles, my Facebook page, and then we can all meet there maybe. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye. See you in the next video.